There we go. Hi guys.
Hi guys.
We're back.
We're back.
And welcome to the channel once again, Zen Ascension. There's Claire and I'm me.
Hi.
So yeah, another week has gone by. Well, just over a week since our last video.
You know, it goes really quick, doesn't it? It flies. It really does fly. I can't believe how quickly these weeks are flying.
I had a massage with my friend Kerry at Soul Triage Quantum Healing last week when I was off.
Yeah.
And they're both very aware of things, and her husband was there as well. And anyway, we just got chatting about things after the massage, once it finished and what have you. And he'd said to me, and I've said this for a long time, that time is illusion and is an illusion. And I think we all know time is an illusion because it's like a man-made thing. But there's the dogs barking.
This is unprofessional, is this?
I must apologise for the dogs barking because I'm expecting a delivery. And anyway, he'd said that time has sped up ever since they turned that Hadron Collider, it's called. It's like something that they've built, and somebody had said, like this young scientist who was like boffing everything, and he'd said, do not turn it on because it's going to send everything to shit. And ever since they've turned it on, look what's been happening. The world's just gone to shit. Something to do with this Hadron Collider, something to do with that, and it has something. It's something to do with the quantum field. It's got something to do with that. I don't know exactly the science behind it, what it is, what it's for, but somebody did say do not turn it on. But they turned it on because they spent millions and millions of pounds or dollars or whatever building this machinery, this contraption. It is. Ever since they've done it, time is getting faster, and that's something else that this guy said, this scientist. He said time will speed up as soon as you and the world will go to shit. And it seems that maybe there might be something in it, but
yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to look at the dates and everything for that. To see when it was actually switched on, because it would be interesting. Maybe it's something that is designed, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, to slow the awakening down.
I don't know, it just seems to be speeding it up though, doesn't it, really?
I think with the events, the way the events are playing out, it's actually speeding that up.
Yeah.
So, I don't.
But that's the thing with the dark. When they give something out there, what happens is it has a counter. Something comes in to counterbalance it, like with the pandemic and stuff that woke so many other people up, with etc. And each thing that comes.
Yeah, well, it's like every part of it, isn't it? It's balance. It's the yin and yang of everything.
Yeah.
And that there will always have to be that equilibrium of balance between the two. Because if you have one polarity of just darkness, then it would just be absolute anarchy. I would suspect. You know, have to be this balance between light and dark, and there always will be. There's always going to be light, and there's always going to be dark. So, don't know why I started talking about that, but we'll just talk about time. But today's subject for discussion is ghost stories, ghosts, things that have happened to us, things that we've experienced. I'm going to talk a little bit about Whitby when I went there last week to the Mystic weekend. It was like a Mystic market, and it was in. If you've ever been to Whitby before, it was in the Pavilion. If you haven't been, it's in a place called the Pavilion, which is a multifunctional building. It's quite. I was surprised at how big it was. But it's used for concerts, it's used for theatres, it's used for all sorts of shows. But yeah, so it was in there, and it was a really, really interesting event. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll see what else pops in, I guess.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Yeah, you up for that?
Yeah, I'm up for that.
So yeah, so I went to, as I already said, I went to the Mystic weekend in Whitby. and it was over the Saturday and the Sunday. It was totally free event, and you could get tickets online if you wanted to, but I think that was mainly so they knew how many people would be coming, the numbers and what have you. There was nobody on the doors to control people coming in. If they had tickets, you could just go in. I went in and got to the top of the stairs, and you kind of like go around this staircase and you can look down into the room that it was in, and there was a window here actually to the left of me, so you could see down into the I suppose like an auditorium or a big hall or whatever. And I looked down, and I was just like, wow, it was just like so much stuff there, and it was all in a big circle. And then but then there was stuff in the middle as well. So it was like a big circle and with like a little circle in the middle. And so we went in, and you got straight away, you got the smell of incense. So obviously you knew you were in the right place when you start smelling incense. And there was just like multiple crystal stalls, couple of reflexology stalls, loads of, there was a psychic artist there, who was doing pictures and things, and he was selling some of his artwork. There was spiritualist mediums there that were doing readings, and there was tarot readers there that were doing obviously tarot readings and what have you. There was loads of crystal stores, loads of stores selling books. One of the books I bought was The Shaman Within. So I haven't started it yet, but it's Reclaiming Our Rites of Passage, by Barbara Meikle-John Free. I don't know if you know that name.
Oh yeah, I do.
Is renowned.
I've got some cards by them.
Oh, she's renowned in the UK, best loved and hardest working wisdom keeper, teacher, advocate, and protector of earth-centered traditions. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading that, because obviously we discussed a bit of like shamanic stuff in the last video, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So I was drawn. There was I could have been there all day, like all weekend, and I would probably still be looking at things, because it was that much. And initially it was that busy, there was that many people there. You had to go around 3 or 4 times to take in whatever was there and whatever you felt drawn to. And some of the stalls were like so busy you couldn't get to them, so you had to try and see them on the next lap round or whatever. And then there was a stall that she sold crystals, she sold sage, there was a couple of sellers actually that sold sprays, like what you use. So I got a couple of them. And this one it's by her company's called Amazonite Griffin. And this one's an awakening spray. So it's like for your crown chakra and your third eye. Yeah. And then this one is a bit smart, and they have little crystals in the bottles as well, which is quite nice. And then this one is a spirit spritz, and it's for like just cleansing your energy, cleansing your area, going around your aura, using it for that. And that's that one. You can't quite see because of the light.
Yeah. There's so many of them now, isn't there? There's so many tools and sprays and crystals, and everything.
Absolutely loads. I mean, 2 of them. She had about 6 altogether, and 2 of the other sprays, one of them just smelled like Agua de Florida. It had exactly the same smell in a bottle, and I thought, well, why get that when I've already got it? And then there was another one which was just like a sage spray, and I thought, well, I'll just use sage. But I was drawn to them 2 to get them, so I thought, right, I'll get them and give them a go. And they are quite nice. They are quite uplifting and refreshing, the sense of them. And what else was there? I mean, it was just crazy how much stuff was there and how many different tarot cards. And yeah, I mean, do you want to know anything about it in particular? What was there?
I've never been to one. I've never done a stall, and I've never actually been to one. As I said, I actually was going to go to one. Well, I've have a stall at one just as the pandemic started. But I think it's something we should do together. Because I think sometimes just to get a stall at these places can be a little bit expensive.
Well, funny, I asked about that. I asked someone, I was quite cheeky, and it's not like me to be cheeky. But I asked, there was a girl that I chatted to, and she kind of like almost like pounced on us, but she had a really lovely energy, and she was like, don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just like talking to people as they go around. And she was selling all like you know, like the candles that you get with a crystal in and whatever.
Yeah.
She was selling all them. So I bought one of them for my mum to try and calm her down and what have you. So I got one. It was like a lavender one with an amethyst in the candle. It was really lovely. But anyway, we got chatting, and she was actually a trained psychologist, and she'd been through the whole mental health thing and gone through so many traumas and so many difficulties. And she was actually, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. I mean, you don't know who she is anyway. I'm not going to use her name, but she'd said that she'd got in touch with her mental health doctor about what she was feeling, what she was going through, and basically she was feeling like she wanted to just end everything. And all the only response she got back was, well, we've got an 18-month waiting list. That was the response that she got back. So that's what pushed her to go into this path of I suppose alternative healing. So she was Reiki trained. She did Reiki. So we were talking about Reiki quite a bit. I gave her my business card because she actually feels drawn to get energy from a man rather than a woman, because she asked me if I feel there's a bit of a stigma because of with you being male doing this sort of stuff. Do you feel there's a stigma and you don't get a lot of male clientele? I said, well, I think that's with most of these things, because women are just naturally and intuitively more open to it, because of the whole divine feminine thing, whether women are aware of that or not. But yeah, it was a really interesting conversation. So we shared details, and she's trying to get like a website up and running and a database to put people on there of various healers and what have you around the country that can go on there and pay so much money per month or whatever for this database to get in touch with these various people that they feel drawn to for their healing needs. So she said, if that's something you'd be interested in, she said, well, give me your details. So we swapped details and everything. So it was nice to chat with quite a few different people. And then I found another stall, which was called, and I followed all these on my Instagram, and they were called Inner Earth Rock Shop, they were called.
Yeah.
They were based in London. And obviously they sold crystals. And then I found out that they sold moldavite as well. So I was talking to them about moldavite and all that sort of stuff. And what was interesting was that when I was talking to this girl's father, he'd said that she'd left school before she was meant to finish, maybe a couple of years earlier, and she just set this business up. And a year, I think it was about maybe a year prior to that, she bought moldavite, and moldavite had like pushed her onto this path to start selling crystals and what have you. And now that's her business. So she goes all around the country selling crystals to people and what have you. And it just shows how powerful crystals can be. You know, if you want to allow that energy in and allow them to do what they need to do, then they can push you onto, I mean, look at the likes of me and you. I mean, I would have never thought I would have been doing this 25 years ago. Whereas now, here I am talking about crystals, buying sprays and doing Reiki. You know, it's just so transformational when you step into your true light.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
So getting back to what I was talking about, because you were asking about cost, weren't you? So she said for her, she had a 6-foot stall, and for her, for the 2 days, it was £135 for the 2 days, to rent that. So she said, obviously, I don't know if it would be any more if you were, or any less if you were doing like a healing thing, or if whatever the sorts were. Obviously, she was just selling candles.
Yeah.
But that was the average price for her. But it would be really interesting to do something like that, especially together, because we've talked about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Haven't we, about that? So
that's actually really reasonable, because I remember when I looked at it, it was between 150 and 350, and it worked out that the 150 wasn't that big.
Yeah.
you needed like 250, 350, and it was like, you what, crazy? Because if you're not going to get that revenue back from it, or
yeah, it's kind of like you have to put some. It's like an investment, really, isn't it? You have to put something into it in the hope, that you're going to get the business, either the business back from it, make enough sales online or through, client work, through people seeing that and having that connection with you. But yeah, it would be really interesting to look into that, to do a stall, whether it be for obviously for healing, shamanic healing, readings, all that sort of stuff would be really interesting.
Because I think Whitby will be a good place to do it. I know when I was looking into more like Manchester. I think there was one like Manchester Arena or Birmingham and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Big, massive places. But I think in those places, I think especially when you first start off, you could easily be drowned in it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you took those pictures, it was like, I think that's nice. It got a nice feel as that. It feels more settled and more.
Yeah, it was a lovely atmosphere, and it's funny you should say that, because by the night time when I went to go to bed, I was still wired from the energy from the day. I just could not settle. I was seeing just faces, loads and loads of faces just coming in. I was just like, oh my God, just leave me alone. I need to go to sleep. It was just absolutely crazy. But the energies were just, and I was just on like a high. And I think that's because I was around so many people, plus all the crystals. And so that's heightening the energy of the room already. And then you've got all these other people that are like psychics and mediums. You've got all that energy going into the room as well. You're just like, whoa. So I was just like wide awake. It took me ages. And in the end, in my mind, I just spoke to my spirit guides and just said, look, can you just push this away a bit or just calm it down? Because it was just getting crazy. I just could not settle, just could not shut off. So yeah, and after a few minutes of saying that, just in my mind, it all calmed down and just went away and back to sleep.
See, that again, I mean, it could be as well that some of the people that are there are maybe doing readings and stuff, but they're maybe not closing things down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Because I suppose if there's got a lot of light there, then you've got a lot of people going in to look at these stalls with a lot of loved ones that are attached, etc. Then that's a lot of energy too.
Yeah. There was a hypnotherapist guy there as well. He was talking about past life regressions and hypnotherapy. So there was different talks that were going on throughout the day at different times. So that's one of the ones we went and sat in. And that was quite interesting. The guy that was talking, he was talking about kind of the mind control from youth and how you grow up and what have you. So you have all these things in there, and then later on in life, you're wondering why you're having these responses to various triggers in life. So he said that's what hypnotherapy does. It takes you back into this state so you can then analyze and see what these problems are and let them go and release them, because you're then aware of what it is. And he said it's basically the same with other forms of healing. What they'll do is it'll take you into a relaxed place where things will start to just move and the energy will flow and it'll be released. And it's exactly the same with all the other different forms. And he actually mentioned Reiki, so I was like, wow, he mentioned Reiki about the healing benefit of that. And I thought, wow, so that was really good. I think I saw one woman that was there doing some form of hands-on therapy, hands-on healing. She had her hands on somebody's shoulders and she was just standing over them and like gently talking to them. But I don't know if it was Reiki or what, but she was in like a nurse's uniform. It was like a nurse practitioner uniform. And I thought, that's interesting. There was another one that was like an astrology. But he was researching stuff on the computer. So he was looking at astrology charts, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It was just like loads of stuff. And then sorry, go on.
It's definitely something to look at for the future and for next year. I wonder when you'd have to get your stall, buy your stall and rent it and maybe start with a deposit or something like that.
Yeah. So I'll have to look on the website, or I'll email them. White Light Events, they were called.
Yeah.
And I'll see, just out of coincidence, because they do take them all around the country. So whether it'll be cheaper in certain areas, because like you say, if it's something like the Manchester Arena, they're probably having to pay, they're having to pay rent and what have you for that space. So that's maybe why the costs are higher. It might not be as expensive in the pavilion because it's not as big as somewhere like Manchester Arena. So definitely be worth something looking into, whether it's for next year or the year after. We just have to
definitely
see what comes our way, see what the universe unfolds for us. But yeah, it was a lovely day, a lovely place. So if you've never been to Whitby, I would highly recommend going, because it's a very mystical place, very spiritual place. They have a few goth weekends throughout the year. They have vampire weekends throughout the year, because obviously it's based on the Bram Stoker Dracula story, if you weren't aware of it. It's got a lot of history, Captain Cook sailed from there on various ships, the Endeavour and Discovery and what have you. It's got the old abbey there, which again is linked to the Dracula story, but that's got the 199 steps going up to it, up to the abbey. It's a really, really powerful place. You've been to Whitby, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been to Whitby loads. It's one of the places I miss, but it's very, very spiritual, and it'd be interesting to find out about what actually inspired them for that book, Dracula, Bram Stoker, because I'm wondering if there was a bit of vampire energy there, because
possibly. I think he had a holiday there. I think Bram Stoker went on holiday there to Whitby, and really enjoyed it that much, and he was starting to write this book, and then based it on that area. And I think that's where the novel came from. But then, like you say, was there something subliminal, something else going on in the background? But a very interesting place, and I know I messaged you about it, but I was just sat up because they have on the West Cliff, they have these two big whale bones, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Crossed over, and there's just near Captain Cook's monument, but there's loads of benches. So I was just sat, me and my mate, we were just sat on these benches, and he was just watching the world go around, and I was fixated on the abbey, and I was just looking over at the abbey, and I'm just thinking, and in my mind, I just said, right, just show me what I need to know about that place and what I need to know about Whitby. So I just sat there, and it took a few minutes for it to start unfolding, but I was just watching it, and it was almost like I could see Whitby being built and constructed, and how it was coming back from the front, and it was building up, and it was going back, and it was going back, and the abbey was built in, it was like 3 stages of construction for the abbey. It was all different dates, or what seemed to be different dates, and some of it felt actually quite recent, whether it's because it's been restored or renewed areas. But I was just watching it, and it was just like, it wasn't with my physical eyes, it was with my mind's eye, and I was just watching it in my mind's eye, just playing out and seeing it build up, and I'm just like, wow, this is just like amazing.
Yeah. I think a lot of Yorkshire, and I think a lot of Northumberland as well, of the northeast, there's been a lot of pagan activity, druid activity, and a lot of it is still in the ground, and I think that's why there's so many places up there attract so many people.
Yeah, definitely.
Haworth is another one. Haworth, I mean, if you ever look into the history of Haworth and the pagan history, the history of the Moors, the history of where the High Street is, where the parsonage is, I mean, the psychic activity is, I mean, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
For everything, elemental goblins, fairies, witches, dark stuff, all kinds of stuff. Because the thing is, whenever you get light, there's also going to be dark, but there's loads of it. Absolutely loads of it.
That's interesting. Because Saltburn's very...
Saltburn's another one as well, yeah.
Yeah, that really draws a lot of people out that way. I've only been a few times, but the last time that I went, I was just like, I can see why. There's just something, I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something about the place. It's got this, it's like an air about it. It's just, it's very magnetic energy.
Yeah. Bamborough Beach as well. That's another one.
Yeah, yeah. You can tell just from looking at that. When you look at like Banbury, and you look at the castle and how just powerful it looks. You know, just from this, the castle that's erupting from like just from the cliffs, basically. It just looks absolutely amazing. You know, I've only been there. I think I've only been there maybe the once. So I really need to get up there again and have a look around. But
the beach, the Bamborough Beach it's absolutely phenomenal, and like there's Linda's Farm as well. It's just so much energy up there. There is just so much energy, and I just think that it's starting to come back out. I think it's been laid dormant for many years, and it's starting to come back out as more and more people are awakening, and more people are going up there, and people are starting to talk about it. Because I remember I did on my other channel, Claire Thackray, I did an Emily Bronte channeling, and she said that the Brontes used to use portals for their writing, and that, you know, when you're an author, you don't just write about what you write about, you're also tapping into real people, you're tapping into real scenarios, and because they lived near the graveyard, and because they lived on the moors, and all the activity that was flowing through them, and Emily said in order to purge it out of them, they wrote it out. Like Heathcliff, where does Heathcliff come from? I think Heathcliff existed. I think they all have existed.
Yeah.
Either during that time or before, and they're either entering them as souls, and they're channeling it out.
Yeah. It's amazing how powerful it can be just by writing. I mean, things like automatic writing, whatever. But even when you're journaling or writing things that you need to write about for you, you're channeling your own energy onto that page, onto that paper.
Yeah.
Like you say, writing, if you're wanting to receive that information, just set it away, you know, set it in motion with the automatic writing, and messages just start to flow through.
Yeah.
I know sometimes when I've written stuff for Reiki clients and sessions and whatever, and I'll just start writing a couple of words, and then it'll just keep flowing and flowing and flowing. I'll just keep writing until it stops.
Yeah.
And that's all part of that energetic process of just going through it, I suppose.
Yeah, and tapping into what's going on in the cosmos as well. Because there's different stories floating about different people. As you're writing, you can be tapping into all of that. So there's a lot more to writing than we think, just sitting down and telling a story.
Oh, yeah.
There's a spiritualism in writing and a lot of channeling as well.
Same with like artwork, you know, when you're painting and when you're creating or making something or building something or sewing something or drawing something, you know, it's all this channeling energy, and sometimes this information will come in and it'll just go onto canvas or paper or whatever the medium might be.
Definitely. And I think the environment that you're in does affect you, and affects what you can create, and affects everything about where you are in your life, what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
You know, some place might be spooky, but it may be okay spooky, and then you may get a place that's not so okay spooky, like Temple Newsam, which used to be near where I lived. I just think that, I mean, we used to do ghost hunts there years ago. I personally don't do ghost hunts now because I don't believe in them, because I think they're antagonistic, but at the time I didn't realise that. There was obviously Ouija board and table tipping, and it just seemed to get, I think I did about 3 there. There was always a clairvoyant there, but the thing is, to close something down after you've opened something like that is a big ask. But on the flip side, we did some good stuff. There was a young maid that was killed and raped, and she was dragged down the middle steps of Temple Newsam, and I'm getting some stuff. Yeah, she was dragged, and her body was buried in like the course at the bottom of the stairs, and she was anchored there. But the footman that had attacked her, he got hung in York, and he was there. So the clairvoyant that was there, if you had a good clairvoyant, you had a good session, and it was more of a healing session. And he said, let's just not tap into it. Let's use the time where we've got all of us here to bring some healing. And that was amazing. I mean, the room, it was pitch black, early hours, and the room lit up with so much light as you as we healed her, healed him, she forgave him, he forgave, everything they needed to do. And both of them were then cut, cords were cut, and then they were sent to the light. And that was amazing. And then I think it was in the same session, I did a table tip. Was it table? No, glass. We did glass work, and then we did table work where you put your hands on the table. And I think it was King James II, because basically Lord Darnley, who married Mary Queen of Scots, was born at Temple Newsam, and his son, I think it's either James the First, it's one of the Jameses. He was the one with the swollen tongue. He was anchored there, and I did it with Richard Felix. He was from Most Haunted at the time.
Yeah.
And again, we spoke to him, and then we sent the energy over. But there was a lot of darkness at Temple Newsam, a lot of darkness. One session I got punched in the back, stood there, just punched in the back.
Wow.
I think as well with big houses, you can get a lot of nasty stuff, a lot of, not all of them, because there's Doddington Hall around the corner from us now, and that feels nice. But there's some, Temple Newsam had a bit of a dark energy in it. Yeah, and
as well, can't you? When you go in these places, where even whether you sense it or not, someone will walk in somewhere and they'll just be like, oh, I don't like the feel of this place, and everyone's got that feeling, that ability, and you can just walk in and you just know it.
Yeah, there was some dark stuff happened there. I remember one story was there were some visitors, and they were walking around the outside of the house, and they looked through, and they thought they saw a reenactment, and it was two adults dressed in fancy dress, in period clothing, and they were hitting a child and abusing a child. So the people went round to the front gate and says, look, there's some reenactors in the big dining area, and they're hitting a child, they're abusing a child. So they're like, reenactors? There's no reenactors in today. Well, there is, because they're in that room. And they all went round and it wasn't there. It was gone. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny how a lot of these old buildings as well, you tend to find that the way that they were built and the material that they were built of keeps a lot of the energy in, and they call it the stone tape theory, don't they, where these things replay, because it's kind of like it's embedded in the energy of the wall. Things like I think it's like sandstone, like quite soft stone, is good at absorbing that energy. And I know I've experienced similar stuff here in this house, even though this house is made of brick. There's things that have happened where it's just been like a replay, and I've heard things and I'm just like, oh, what the hell is that? That somebody like shouting at me, but she doesn't live here anymore. I'm just like, but it's all these little things that you pick up on and you hear when you start to be aware of it, and you're awakening from it.
At the beginning of one of them, I think it was the one with Richard Felix, one of the best ones, because the psychics were behaving themselves, because Richard Felix was there, and he's not a dark person, he's quite light. And he talked about, he says, bricks are like, like the old videotapes used to have. He said, brick is like a videotape. He said, so you may walk into a room and it may not actually be a ghost, it could just be replaying.
Yeah.
Something could just be replaying if it's still in the bricks, what they're called? Foundations.
The foundations, yeah. Yeah, because all that stuff comes up, and again, it's like when we talk about grounding and what have you, you don't have to be on grass or actually on the earth, because when you're in a building, you're actually connecting electronically via your energy to the foundations of the building, so it's all this energetic thing that you can experience and feel in these places. And like you say, sometimes it can be quite lovely, and other times it can be like, oh, not sure about that.
Yeah.
Like we were talking just before we came on cam, and you were going to talk about the Black Monk House in Thorpe, and I've watched where Most Haunted went there, and I've watched the one where Paranormal Lockdown went there, and they stayed there for like 3 days, and I've watched another one where somebody else went there, and there's a paranormal investigation group in I think it's in Darlington somewhere, and they'd advertised that we're going to go there and stay overnight at this place, and I was just like, no, you won't get me in there. One of my friends, she was like, oh, I want to go. I'm just like, well, on your head be it. I would want to be going in there.
But you see, that's the thing as well. It's not. I mean, I've done ghost hunts in the past, but I've only done them at Temple Newsam. But that was dark enough at times. But I did go to antagonise them, and I always had respect. I think it was curiosity.
Yeah.
But I know I've heard stories about antagonism. I mean, this is an example of it. I tell a lie. I've not just done it at Temple Newsam. I once went to the Pendle Witches as well, and it was, we walk up to the top of the Pendle Hill, and it was too hot and we didn't get up there, and some people did, some people didn't, and I stayed at the bottom, and she was a white witch, and one of her guides was one of the Pendle Witches, and we got talking, and she says that, Most Haunted with Yvette, what was her name? God, Most Haunted, Yvette, what, I can't remember what her name was. Anyway, she used to do Blue Peter.
Fielding.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Yvette, and I remember this because I used to watch that as well. I don't know. And Yvette Fielding did a table session with the Pendle Witches, and she was calling this particular witch a slag, and she was bullying her. And that, honestly, that's the language she was using, and they were trying to goad them out. And she said that her guide, that was her guide, had actually put a curse on her. And it was just after that Yvette needed a hysterectomy. Her business collapsed, and there was issues with her marriage. The show collapsed. There was loads of stuff that went from really popular to all that happening after that one session. And it was like, well, that's an example of what happens when you go in and you goad.
Yeah. I mean, all the investigations I've ever done in the past, and there's been a lot. I have been to different places, and sometimes just been like with me and some friends, just because we were just inquisitive, really, and we were interested in it all. But the organized investigations that we did go to, one of them was like down a mine shaft, where it used to be an old tin mine, I think it was. And again, there was no disrespect or anything like that. We just sat there and we just listened and waited and waited for things to happen or to make themselves known. There was no goading, there was nothing like that. It was just asking questions, asking if anyone experienced anything or feels anything.
Yeah.
And that was probably the first time that started sort of being able to see things like properly. And I mean, I say it properly, it was just like a flash of something that I saw. And I'd said to the woman that was there, she was a medium that was organized with the group. And she said, oh, does anyone see or feel anything? And I said, well, there's a cat there. She was like, is there where? I said, just there on the rails. She's like, oh, right. She said, yeah, there has been cats reported down here, like have been seen. She said, what color is it? And I said, well, I think it's black. Because it was so pitch black, all I could see was these eyes blinking. And so she was like, oh, right, okay. And then I said, and there's a man here as well in overalls, like dungarees type, where you have straps.
Yeah.
It was like that. And it was like a flash. It was just like there and then gone, like so fast. And I described him and the cap and everything that he was wearing and where he was and stuff like that. So she was like tuning into who it was. She was like, I think it might be John, that's down there. But then again, like, I mean, John's quite such a popular name, isn't it? It's one of the, and that's why I always get a bit like a bit cynical when people, I mean, they are people's names and you can't deny that. And there's been lots of Johns and Jameses and what have you, but it's when you get like an unusual name, like, and it just comes out of the blue and you think, oh, all right, oh, that's a bit more interesting. But that was like probably one of the first times where I thought, that's interesting. Why did I see that? And again, it was more about curiosity, because me and my friend that we went with, we used to watch Most Haunted. We watched all the lives, we watched all the paranormal shows, all the programs. We were really interested in like the history of our town and roundabout and what's been seen and what's gone on and stuff. And we don't really have much connection now because he's moved away and stuff. But it was really, really interesting. And that was, I suppose I've always been kind of interested in that side of things.
Yeah.
I'll tell a lie. I think the first time I actually saw something was probably when my granddad died. And I was maybe about 8-year-old, I think. And he just sort of appeared and like sort of waved and then just disappeared. And that was it. And then ever since then, it's just been, yeah, it's just been unusual little occurrences and events. But I mean, there's loads of stuff around here in Darlington itself, in the town, because it's such an old town, and I think this was quite a pagan town when it started out, because you're going back to, like, I think the town itself, the settlements that were here was dated as far back as like 900 and something AD, so like really, really old.
Yeah.
So you're probably talking, I don't even know about time, like Roman or something like that, maybe just after. But yeah, there's been all sorts of like things that have been reported over the years. One of the stories of the town, the most famous one, is a lady called Lady Jarrett, Lady Jane Jarrett, or something like that she was called, and she was about to be married or something along those lines, and she had this huge sort of ring, this massive jewel on a ring, and she'd gone from this ball and she was going home, and the path that she has to walk goes through what's now known as South Park, which is quite near where you'll be staying when you come up to Darlington. There was some muggers wanted to follow her, and they wanted this ring, and she wouldn't give it to them, and so in the end they chopped her hand off, took her hand. She just fell and bled to death, and that's supposed to be, and every now and again she's supposed to be seen walking from where she was leaving the ball across the road into South Park, where her house would have originally been. So yeah, but there's things of elementals in the river, in the River Tees, like goblins and things like that. There's all sorts of strange things, and people have allegedly been pulled into the river to the death by it.
I'm always wary of rivers. I love rivers. I really do love rivers, and I love walking by a river. I'd have a little paddle, but I'm always wary of swimming in a river. I mean, I know the shaman that trained me, she said to be careful in rivers, because a lot of, I mean, I've said myself, if I'm seeing a face-to-face client, you'll take something out via a lemon or an egg, and you'll tell them to throw that in the river that's flowing away from them. But there's also like people that do dark magic, put things in rivers to get things. They use water, and a lot of dark stuff can be in rivers. There's a lot of dark elementals, and that's the same with the sea, where it can drag you in, or it can drag boats in. Or I mean, we've always had boats sinking and boats getting dragged in, and all kinds of things. River gods and sea gods and all kinds of things. It's not about fear. It's just about being respectful when you're near water.
Yeah, very much so. I'm quite the same. I'm always a bit like, I've always been a bit cautious of water, especially rivers and the sea. But I think just because I'm aware of how powerful it is, and how powerful nature is. So yeah, that's probably part of that. But yeah, I mean, there's been other things that have happened here, like before, like years ago, probably in my sort of mid-20s. And that's when I was like sort of going through my whole mental health thing, and I thought I was cracking because I was hearing all this stuff and experiencing all these weird and wonderful things, and you think you're going like absolutely potty, but no, it's all part of the process, and it's all part of the awakening, because you're starting to connect and be a bit closer. With
there's loads of different beings, there's loads of different portals, there's lots of damaged lands, there's lots of good land, there's so much out there to start looking into and to start understanding. I think it's about having respect for it as well, rather than it being a freak show, because these were souls, these were people that lived, and like with 30 East Park Drive, which is in Pontefract, and I remember it was a girl at work that lived in Pontefract, and she told me about it. And we went, and I remember, I mean, Pontefract is a dark place as well. Pontefract and Castleford. There's a lot of light places in Yorkshire, but there's a lot of dark as well. And I remember we were driving up, and I'd never been there before. And I remember saying, it's not just the house, it's the estate that it's on as well. Because I got to this estate and I says, this is the estate. And it was the whole estate around it. And this house was bang smack in the middle of it. And it was like pulsating this evil. And we'd got there. Apparently the story was you could either do ghost hunts there, or you could go next door, and the woman next door had the key to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We went in. We didn't go in the house because I was at the time with a dipstick, and it probably wouldn't have been a good idea. And we just walked around and went, there's no way I'm going in. But you could just feel the darkness. And the thing is, when people go in and all they're doing is antagonising it.
Yeah.
And more and more. And what happens is, what starts off as something, as one event or one energy, it spirals out.
Well, yeah, it just creates more, doesn't it? It becomes elemental, really, because you get that much sort of energy going into one place, and people creating this other energy, and it manifests into something else, which can be much worse than what's actually there.
Yeah.
Or it can combine into what's already there and make it even worse than what's already there. But yeah, it's an interesting place, and I mean, it's something that I wouldn't want to go to. But on the episode of Paranormal Lockdown that I watched, and it's with Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman, they spoke to a historian, and it's right what you're saying, because where the house is, it's on like a crossroads, and historically, where there's crossroads, there was always hangings, and that's why. And it was that whole area, that whole block, like you said, that whole estate. It's that whole block is affected by this energy, and the guy that got hanged, that they think is in that house in that ground, it's someone that got hanged because he was molesting children or something like that. So yeah, and that's why that happened.
Yeah, and all it needs, and I think if you're a clairvoyant or you have got the ability to bring some form of healing, I think you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. I mean, when I did it at the time, I wasn't doing it as a clairvoyant. I was just nosy and inquisitive. But I think once you start on your path, I think you should not do anything like that. And I think especially if you have the ability to heal it, rather than, like, say if somebody said to me, Claire, would you come and do a ghost night? I'd say no, but I'll tell you what I will do. I'll send it, I'll heal it, because I think that's what you should do, rather than going in and antagonising. Because I remember when I was trained, it was like, when you move into a new house, you walk into their house, and you've got to be respectful about that. So it's because what they see is, they see a burglar. They see a burglar, and it's especially if they're quite anchored. So say if it's a client and someone says, I've got a house, it's haunted, and it's haunted by a little old lady, and so you go in, well, the chances are that little old lady sees that the person that lives there is the intruder. So if somebody came in here now, if somebody came in your house, a burglar, you'd punch them, you'd ring the police, you'd throw something at them, and that's how they feel. How they feel. So they attack because they feel as though they're under attack, if that makes sense. But I also think as well, when you talk about these dark hauntings, because I remember there's another house, I don't know where it is, but it was one where there was two sisters, and they got pinged around the room, and they got pinged to the ceiling and everything. And I remember it was a drama. They did a drama about it. It was a true story. And I remember thinking, that whole family was tapped. And I remember at the time getting these messages that not just your regular spooky stuff, but your big serious hauntings. I think when you get that, it's because there's an alignment there. Yeah, there's an alignment there, or there's something dark inside you that's reflecting into.
It could even be, it could even be people that they're connected to in spirit, that are still there and they're living there because it's part of their energetic line, because they haven't cut the cords and moved on from that soul contract. They're still there and attracting that that energy, because like you say, as we are now in this life, the people that we attract and we resonate with are because we're on a similar frequency.
Yeah.
Exactly the same in spirit. So if you're in somewhere and you're quite a negative person or dark or whatever, if there's anything in there on that frequency, it will be balanced with it.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much that we're not taught, and there's so much that we've yet to learn about actually looking after land properly and having respect for homes and having respect for land, and how who we let in as well. I'd like when you see it on YouTube, on Facebook, where people do these posts, it's like, my door is always open, and and it's like, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Now that's the difference between, say, if your neighbour runs into trouble, you'd help them. But when you see people that they've got an open door policy, and it's like, all that energy is coming in, all these ghosts they've got, all the entities, all the, you know what I mean? It's coming into your home. You've got people coming in and bringing their traumas as well. This has just happened, that's just happened, this has just happened. That comes in as well.
Yeah.
Because a room does change when you're talking about something negative. Like, once we've done this video, I'm going to have to smudge, and you'll probably do the same, just to
clear it out. Yeah.
Watching ghost films as well, that's bad. People that watch horror movies and ghost films and stuff like that, because you do draw it in. You do.
I know, it's funny because you do feel it, and like we've been watching Stranger Things. So we got to the last episode of season 1 because Dan's been watching it for ages, and then I'd said, oh, so is that Stranger Things? Because I know Kate Bush she's getting like all the royalties for that song, Running Up the Hill, isn't she? Because it was in one of the episodes of Stranger Things. So I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind like watching that. And anyway, so we're watching it, and like episode 1, it's going on and on and on and on. And like by the end of like season 1, you're just like, crikey, this is like for, I think it's got an age, I think it's 15 is the age restriction on it, because it is quite, because there's a thing, it's like a demigorgon or something they call it, that's in there. So it is quite dark, and then they've got like, and it's almost like it's like a different dimension where it exists. So there's our reality, and then there's their reality. And every now and again, it pierces through into our reality. Yeah. Think, wow, that is actually real. That can happen. How they can just manifest and come through into our world, do what they need to, then bugger off back to it. So like you say, you do have to be careful, and you have to be, when you are going to places, just be respectful.
Yeah. And it's not about walking around in fear. It's just being respectful. Absolutely. It all as well.
So that was my I might have to spray a bit of this now. I'll do some of my spirit spritz. Oh, that's nice.
You see, it's good to talk about it. There's a difference between talking about it like this as a teaching thing or as a learning thing, as a helping thing, than there is, guess what? Do you know what? Woo! So there is a difference. We should be able to talk about things, but again, we just do it with respect.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I was younger and I was going around these, like when I went down that mine shaft and we did all that sort of stuff, and there was a medium there and what have you, but there was no like discussion like this. There was no like explaining, just be respectful, be nice. There was, don't antagonize and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we didn't. There was nothing like that anyway. We were all very respectful. And they were, I suppose, with the way they kind of like spoke to us, the guides and what have you. But there was nothing like that. So it's about this knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge is power, and just giving the information out. Because there will be a lot of people still that will go out and they'll want to just try and get reactions just to crowd please and whatever. And it's not the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like when you're taking stuff off people, one of the things that you can't, I mean, there's various different ways you can do it, but one of the ways I was taught was you appeal to their better nature. One of the things you can say is, why is somebody as strong as you attached to somebody, a weak human? Don't you think you could do much better on yourself? And it's like, almost when you're talking to them, it's like, oh yeah, I could actually, why am I with this human, this mere human that's weak, that's full of addictions, that's full of trauma, when I am, I mean, if you're talking like reptilian energy, when I am such a bit, you know, and they can go quite easily.
Yeah.
But again, it's about respect, because that's another thing I was taught. When you're taking stuff off, don't go in as with your sleeves rolled up, right, you're going to get it, that's it, because there'll be a comeback from that.
Yeah.
It's about having respect for the being, even if it's a demon, having a respect for it.
Yeah.
And not going in for all guns blazing.
Yeah.
And it does work. It does work. It does work. Light does win and love does win. It really does.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting, isn't it? Interesting what goes on behind the scenes.
This is interesting. And it's almost like I got a vision of one then, and it was like I was being shown the core of this demon, and the core of this demon was a pain, was a trauma. And what I was shown was these are like energies, souls that may have lived on the earth, because you can become a demonic soul. I'm not going to go into it, and it's all formed from pain, from trauma. It becomes a poison that spreads, and that's how they become the demon. It's what I'm seeing. You got the Beauty and the Beast, the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, because the demons can look like, well, they're either doing fairy tales, but it's almost like it's formed by a trauma.
Yeah. And
it's fed by more darkness going to it, more darkness going to it, more darkness going to it. But at the core of it, there'll be a sliver of light that if you can latch onto that and make it grow, because they say a demon is a fallen angel.
Well, that's it. That's exactly the same process that they use in the soul center healing hypnosis that I've done, you know, and they'd say, you know, if they've ever come across a dark demonic thing, made it see the light that's actually within it, and then it make it realize that actually, you know, they're not actually that bad, you know, is that spark of light, and then they see that light and they realize, and then they can go to the light because they are connected to it. And it's quite an emotional, beautiful thing when you hear it talked about, and the way that can be moved on, because, and sometimes, like you say, with earthbound stuff, they, a lot of the time, that they do still think that they're here and living, because like you say, they think people that are moved into the house are trespassing or burglars or whatever. But then making them realize what's happened and allowing them, because sometimes they'll be earthbound because they think they're going to get judged, or there's that fear of going across.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have to make them see and trust, because they'll be able to see a portal of light, but they'll be too scared to go towards it. Then allowing them to see the loved ones that are there waiting for them, they'll be like, and then just give them the confidence and just say, you know, there's no judgment. You will go back home. You will go back with your family, and then they'll be taken into the arms of the universe, and they'll go back to where they're meant to be. And it's such a beautiful process. And I mean, I've seen that with a couple of things that were released from me during a couple of soul center healing hypnosis sessions. And I saw the whole thing in my mind's eye, and I saw Archangel Michael there, and he was doing his bits, and he was helping people move into the light and go back home to the light. And you say, wow, and it is so beautiful.
It's all down to brain condition. I remember Richard Felix said that as well, that a lot of the reason why we've got ghosts, especially old-fashioned ghosts, is because they were programmed back then. It was the church, you know, if you sinned, you don't get to the light. And that's why a lot of people have ended up anchored. Like with the 30, I can't remember what it's called now, East Park Drive. It's because, like you say, if there's been a hanging there, you think about what you have to do in order to hang. And sometimes you don't have to do anything to be hung. You can just be a certain way. You think of all that terror and darkness and fear that would have been held, that would have anchored them there. So when you look at it like that, you think, are you going in and you're antagonizing that spirit on that portal, or that demon that's attached to that trauma and pain? Surely it's your job as a psychic or healer to help to clear it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Not make it worse and give it more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Really is. I know there was one time years and years and years ago, I woke up and I was asleep on the sofa downstairs. And I woke up and you know, when you're just a bit like a little bit groggy and what have you. And I woke up and I looked and there was a man sat in the chair, just with his legs crossed, just with his arms folded, dude, just looking at me, just staring at me, like very peacefully, you know, just very serenely. And it was there like fully, but it almost looked like he was sheening, you know, there's like a sheen on him, like this sort of light that was just sort of billowing out of him as well. But he was just sat there and he was just looking. And then I just kind of like shook my head and like looked again, and he was gone like so fast. And it's like, wow, who was that? And like for ages, I was like questioning, like, who was it? Who was it? Who was sat there? Was it someone that used to be here, that used to live in the home? And I was just racking my brains trying to think. And then I thought, I wonder if it was my granddad's brother. So I asked my mum if there was any photos of my great uncle Tommy. She said, I haven't got many, but there is a couple. And then I looked at them and I just thought, you know, that could have been him. That could have been him, because he looked very similar, and he had sort of like this grey combed back hair. Yeah, no, it felt like that. But I'd never met him in my life. You know, he passed away before I was born.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that's why he'd come through. That's why I was aware of him.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It is fascinating. It takes a lot for them to do that as well, to actually show themselves like that. It takes a lot for them to do it.
Yeah, especially with the physical eye. Yeah, I mean, it's all right with the third eye, you know, because that's your receiver and your transmitter. But to see them with the physical eye, that takes a lot of energy to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going back to that stone tape theory thing, part of the thing that happened there was one night that I was asleep and I got woken up. I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, oh, it was the TV. The TV in the bedroom turned itself on.
Yeah.
I said, what the hell? So I thought, oh, I must have rolled over onto my remote control. So I just turned the TV, but the remote control was on the bedside cabinet. So I just knocked the TV back off again and put the remote back on the bedside table, put my head back down again. Then the TV came back on again. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I heard Ian, John, like, John's my brother's name. And it was just like my mum calling us down for like tea or dinner or whatever. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? But this was like when I was like in my mid-20s, and I thought I was going a bit like doolally. So in the end, I phoned my mum up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and woke her up out of bed and said what had happened. She was like, well, it might be someone outside. I said, there's nobody outside. I said, the street is desolate. So we'll have a look out the back. I said, I'm not leaving this bedroom.
I wonder if it was like excuse me, like a memory repeating itself.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Memory repeating itself.
Yeah.
And that the electricity from it caused the telly to come on its own.
Yeah, it was like to get my attention. Yeah, that's all I can think of it as. It's like you say, it's like a stone tape theory. It's like a replay of something that's happened. But yeah, it's interesting how with the TV coming on and waking me up to get my attention, because it just needed to be. And then it was like years of just waking up between 3 and 5. It just, why?
Strange. There's so much room to learn, and there's so much room to find out.
Yeah, and now
I wonder what's going to happen to these places, like, that are really dark and quite heavy through this awakening. I wonder if the land gets regenerated.
That'd be interesting.
That'll be interesting to look at.
Yeah, because obviously as the Earth's vibration changes,
yeah,
the vibration of the planet lifts and whatever. I wonder how it's going to impact, that dark stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I've just got like a movie scene. It's like it was given to me like I've seen this before, where obviously New Earth, as it grows, all the dark that's here is regenerated and becomes healed again. So the demon becomes the angel again, or the demon becomes the back to the soul essence again, and is able to go forward. The dark becomes a light reptilian, and so on and so forth, and that gradually it starts to regenerate and turn around again.
That's interesting.
We can all live amongst each other in peace.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And on that note,
go get yourself smudged.
I'll get me sage out. Well, but we've chatted for about an hour. It doesn't even feel like an hour.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh no, but there's that time thing again. It's that hydrogen, whatever it's called.
Do you know what, though? I also think that it's Archangel Metatron, because I think he can control time, can Metatron. So say you're late for an appointment, he can slow the clock down for you. But I also think he's quickening things up for the awakening to get us through certain, because I think if we're going through all the pandemics at a slow pace and all this drama that's going on, it'd be a lot of it is spirit getting us through it quick. I think there's two ways we could look at it. It's like, oh, it's them again, they're playing with stuff, or it's like they may be dabbling, but that's more stronger than that. And actually, by that going through quicker, it's actually getting us through quicker.
It's getting through the process, and it's purging, isn't it? It's getting through the process quicker, so it's purging it faster. And I think that's why it can feel more catastrophic and full on.
Yeah.
We are getting through it faster, but on the brighter side of things, we're getting through it faster because we need to, and we need to experience more of this awakening and this light coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've not got, I mean, if you have 60, 70, 80, 900 years on this earth, it's not actually that long.
No.
It's not actually that long, when you think about it.
No.
So in order for us to experience what we need to experience, it's got to go quicker while we're still at that same, if that makes sense. Are we actually leaping years? And we're not aware of that we're leaping years.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, we only understand it from what we're being taught about days and time and what have you. In actual fact, we have no idea really, do we? It's just if we were deeper in that spiritual side of things, and we were in that energy of all time, and of being so present that time doesn't exist at all. It is an illusion. And things happen when they happen.
They do.
And that's it. There's no point in being worried or fearful or stressed out about things, or it is what it is, and it just happens when it happens.
I think time's going to change. I think the speed of time's going to change, because don't they say that in heaven time goes? You see, that's it, Ian, as well, because when you go over the other side, it's time's like that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
When you see like your grandmother in heaven, to her it feels like she died yesterday, you're there today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're awakening, we're getting that's what it is, Ian. As we're awakening, we get our time zone is starting to align with the heaven time zone. And that's why it's going quicker. Yeah.
That's absolutely right, because like you said, there is no concept of time and space.
Yeah.
So yeah. Wow.
Ooh.
And we've finished how we started, talking about time.
I know. Good old time.
Is that?
What time is it now?
It's getting on for 2:15. If you believe in that.
Yeah.
Right, we should let this go here. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed our little chat today. A little bit of all sorts today. But yeah, it's been interesting. Little bits and nuggets of things for you to think about, to ponder over.
Yeah.
consider if you want to go on for one of those haunted weekends and don't antagonize them, treat them with respect, because they're just people at the end of the day.
Yeah, they are actually.
So yeah, so that's that.
More examples of humans bullying, that's what it is. It's more examples of humans finding something else to bully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Poke it. And the thing is, the energy at the minute with a lot of people is that pokey energy, where they like to poke something. They see something fragmented, so they poke their finger straight through the fragments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like with anything in life, isn't it? It's this egoic human thing where they just think they have the say over everything and everyone and whatever, rather than just being in harmony with everybody.
Yeah.
Mankind seems to think that they can do anything to anything.
Yeah.
So it's quite, yeah. Right, okie dokie then. So don't forget to like and share and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. It's goodbye from me, Ian Robinson, and it's goodbye from her.
Bye, Claire Thackray. Our socials are below. You can join us on our own YouTube channels, book sessions with us, anything you want.
Yes, anything you want. And if you want other content, if you want us to talk about anything specific, then do comment below in the little box and let us know.
Yeah.
Until then, much love to you all. Take care of yourselves and bye for now.
Bye. Bye.